Now we concentrate on the another type of non-linear motion. If you consider this diagram, in that case, O is the center of circle, R is the radius of circle, and if you consider object A, which is on the circumference of a circle, if it is moving along the circumference of a circle, then the motion of such object is called as circular motion. Because in that case, object like A moves along the circumference of a circle, and that's why such motion is called as circular motion. So remember this, what is circular motion? The motion of an object along the circumference of a circle. Such type of motion is called as circular motion. Remember, in that case, always particles or objects are moving along the circumference of a circle. And that's why such type of motion is called as circular motion. Now we have to study the another type of non-linear motion. In case of random motion, this is the motion of an object in a different directions with a different velocities. Direction and velocities are not fixed in case of random motion. Such type of motion is called as a random motion. If we consider flying of birds, they move in any direction with any velocities. Or if we consider motion of butterfly, it is also an example of a random motion. If we consider example of circular motion, then motion of blades of the rotating fan, it is example of circular motion. Also we know the electrons are revolving around the nucleus, it is also example of circular motion. Then earth is revolving around the sun, moon is revolving around the earth, such are example of a circular motion. So these are the types of non-linear motion. So this is about the motion. In case of motion, we know that there is change in the position of an object with respect to time, and that's why it is called as motion. Motion classified into two ways: linear motion, non-linear motion. Again, linear motion is classified into two ways: uniform linear motion, non-uniform linear motion. Non-linear motion can be classified in oscillatory motion, circular motion, random motion. So this is about the motion. So we study about the motion. Now related to this thing, we study about distance and displacement. What is distance and what is displacement? So for studying these two terms, distance and displacement, we consider an example. An object is moving from A to B, as like in this path, and again it moved from B to A in this path. Then what is distance? Distance. Distance is the total path length traveled by an object. It is simply distance. Means when object moving from A to B, as like this one, again B to A. This is the total length of the path followed by the object, and therefore it is called as a distance. Then what is displacement? Displacement. Displacement is the shortest distance or minimum distance between starting point and end point. If you consider A is the starting point, B is the end point, then distance between or shortest distance or minimum distance between starting point and end point is called as displacement. So we write what is displacement? The minimum distance traveled by object from starting point to end point. It is called as displacement. It is called as displacement. So, minimum distance between starting point and end point, it is called as displacement. Now, what is the difference between distance and displacement? If we know two physical quantities, scalar. Everybody knows the scalar. Scalar is a physical quantity which can be completely described by magnitude only. In that case, there is requirement of only magnitude. Example of scalar are length, mass, time. These are the example of scalar. So for scalar physical quantity, there is requirement of only magnitude. Then and then this quantity can be completely described. Now we consider vector. In case of vector is also physical quantity which can be completely described by magnitude as well as direction. Magnitude as well as direction. Such physical quantity is called as vector. So remember, for vector we require magnitude and also direction. And for scalar we only require magnitude. Means for the measurement of 1 kilo sugar, there is no requirement of direction. And that's why kilogram means mass. Mass is the scalar quantity. But if we consider force, for force we require magnitude Also direction. If we consider this object and we apply the force on that object. So for expression of force, we need the direction. In this way, when we apply the force, body moves in this direction, and then also require magnitude. And therefore, such physical quantities like force, velocity, acceleration, displacement are the vector quantities. By using this one, scalar and vector, this distance is scalar physical quantity, while this displacement is vector physical quantity. When we consider total path length, there is no requirement of direction. But when we consider displacement, in that case, we have to mention the direction and we have to mention the starting point and end point. Then and then we find out displacement. And therefore, the displacement is called as vector quantity. And distance is called as, distance is scalar quantity. Now again remember, what is distance? The total path length traveled by an object is called as distance. And what is displacement? The minimum distance traveled by object from starting point to end point, it is called as a displacement. Now from this example, displacement may be 0. If particle move from A to B, again B to A, then displacement becomes 0. But distance traveled by an object may not be 0. Distance may not be 0, but displacement may be 0. So this is about the distance and displacement. In case of distance, remember it is a scalar physical quantity, and in case of displacement it is a vector quantity. Now we know that speed is another physical quantity which depends upon distance, and velocity is the another physical quantity which depends upon displacement. As you know that distance is scalar quantity and speed depends upon distance, then speed is a scalar quantity. For studying this speed, we require only magnitude, and that's why speed is a scalar quantity. For the studying velocity, velocity depends upon displacement, and as displacement is a vector quantity, therefore velocity is a vector quantity. Now we study about speed and velocity. Formula for speed is total distance traveled by body object, total distance traveled by object upon time. It is formula for the speed. Speed is equal to total distance traveled by an object upon time. And for velocity, formula is, as velocity depends upon displacement, so formula for velocity is displacement upon time. The speed is scalar quantity and velocity is vector quantity. So belonging to this formula, we can say that what is speed? Speed is the total distance traveled by body per unit time. And what is velocity? Velocity is the displacement per unit time. With the help of this formula, we can define the definition of speed and velocity. Speed means the total distance traveled by body per unit time. At the same time, what is velocity? Velocity is displacement per unit time. Velocity is vector and speed is scalar quantity. But we know that displacement is measured in terms of length, so its SI unit is meter. Time is measured in terms of second. So SI unit of velocity is meter per second. And CGS unit of velocity is length is measured in centimeters and time is measured in seconds. So centimeter per second. CGS unit of velocity is centimeter per second. Now if we consider the speed, total distance, again SI unit of speed is meter per second by using this formula, and CGS unit of speed is also centimeter per second. From this we can say that the units of speed and velocities are same. SI unit is meter per second, in both cases. CGS unit is centimeter per second for speed and velocity, and therefore according to this we can say that the units of speed and velocities are same. Now if body is moving along the straight line, if body is moving along the straight line as like this one, then the physical quantities or the values of speed and velocity are same. Remember that when bodies are moving along the straight line as like this one, then values of speed and velocities are same. So this is about the velocity and speed. Always remember that velocity is vector quantity and speed is scalar quantity. The units of speed and velocities are same. And when body is moving along the straight line, the values of speed and velocities are same. Now effect of speed and direction on the velocity. We have to study about effect of speed and direction on velocity. What is the effect of speed and direction on the velocity? If we change the speed and in that case direction is same, so in first case we consider change in the speed while direction is same, then there is change in the velocity. In another case we changing the direction but speed remains constant, again there is effect of velocity. If we change both speed and direction, then also velocity changing. So this is the effect of speed and direction on the velocity. So this is about the velocity. We know that velocity depends upon displacement Now there is another physical quantity. Name of that physical quantity is acceleration.